And we here. Okay.
You ready?
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Streets is Talking podcast, man. I am in a familiar place with some new features, with the same good people. I am at Laney Museum of Black Heritage down here in good old Augusta. I am with the historian, none other than Mr. Corey Rogers. And we're here today to talk to you about some upcoming events for the city that I think a lot of people should get involved with and will be very interested to learn about. So, Mr. Rogers, what's on the calendar for the next couple months?
Well, I tell you what, D, always good to see you, always good to talk with you. And I think it's been a minute, so I guess I have to give you a little bit of an update. So okay. I'm no longer the historian of the Laney Museum. I don't think we talked about. No, it's all good. It's all good. We're here to catch up anyway. So I'm the executive director now of the Laney Museum, but still sort of wear both of those hats, if you will. And being director sort of gives me that platform to talk about and advocate for the history and culture that we're known for here at the Laney Museum.
Yes, sir.
Our museum, the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History and Conference Center, has been around since June of 1991. And one of the great things about the museum, it came out of an idea. There were a group of women, sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, and they had an idea. They wanted to create a space. First of all, they wanted to create a space where they could meet, but then they took it one step further. They formed a nonprofit, Delta House Incorporated, and through this incorporation, they created the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History. So where others had failed prior to them to create a Black History Museum in Augusta, they succeeded. And so we've been on the scene now since 91, and we continue to grow. We're not big, but we cast a big shadow.
Yes, sir.
Structurally, we may not be as large as the Augusta Museum of History or other institutions, but we certainly have a heavy footprint in the Augusta community. And so that's one of the things that we want to continue to do, to leverage our voice, to leverage our power, to talk about the rich history and culture of Black Augusta. So it's just, good to be with you again, brother, and glad to see you, coming up from when you used to come and volunteer here during summer camp. You were at Georgia Southern, and now you just keep doing good things and doing great things, and I'm kind of glad to see I can watch and see you grow, personally and professionally. So I'm also just kind of happy to see you grow as well. But D, you asked me about what's going on at the museum. We always got something popping off here, so we'll go ahead and talk about what's happening in October and November. So one of the big things that's coming up that we're working on is called Men on the Bag. And it's a new experience. About 2 years ago, a guy named Leon Mabin, who's the vice president of the board of directors here, he was in Louisville, Kentucky. And while in Louisville, they were visiting different museums and art galleries. They went to the Kentucky Derby Hall of Fame Museum. And Leon noticed something. He noticed that on the wall, there was a mural. And all of the early jockeys that ran in the Kentucky Derby were all African American. So Mr. Mabin was like, you know what? We have a story in Augusta just as compelling. And it involves the African American caddies from the Augusta National that often played in the Masters golf tournament. So that was the germ. That was the seed that was planted, that eventually morphed into what we call Men on the Bag. Men on the Bag is a 1.5 hour experience. And I'm not calling it anything else but an experience, because you get everything in 1.5 hours. You get acting through the Augusta Mini Theater, you get dancing, a little bit of singing, a little bit of drama, you get history, of course, and then at the end of the production, the actual living caddies come out and talk to the audience. Then at the very end, while they're signing autographs that we created for them, we created autograph cards for the caddies. You can take part in some of the delicacies that are associated with the Masters. So we have pimento cheese sandwiches, egg salad sandwiches, chicken salad sandwiches. You can have lemonade, sweet tea, or you can mix it together to make an Arnold Palmer. So all of this is offered to you at the Laney Museum. And it's a reminder to people, and we did this strategically, it's a reminder that we are the stewards of all of our history. You know, Lucy Laney is the namesake of the museum. She lived in this home. But it is incumbent upon us to talk about these stories, like the caddies, that no one else is talking about. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to focus on the Augusta National Caddies.
Yes, sir. Now, from the research I've done on the early Augusta caddies back then, didn't most of those men live around the area on, I guess, the hill or on Washington Road, around Augusta National, now in the Augusta Country Club?
Demetrius, you're absolutely correct. Most of the caddies, you know, from the 20s and 30s, going into the time that Clifford Roberts and Bobby Jones developed the Augusta National Golf Course, all the way through the 1980s and early 90s, most of those caddies came from the Sand Hills or the Hill community. Now, there were some that came from other areas, like downtown, for example. A good example of that would be Robert Cigarette Jones. So Cigarette lived down here, went to Laney High School. He got his nickname because he was behind Gefford's drugstore one day on 12th Street. And the football coaches were looking for him, and they caught him behind Gefford smoking a cigarette. So they started calling him Cigarette. One of the things about the caddies that everybody wants to know that comes out to the experience is how they got their colorful nicknames. So you got Jim Big Boy Dent, or you got Willie Frank Petite Cemetery. They call him Cemetery, a dead man. Yeah. Willie Pappy Stokes, Iron Man Avery. So they have these colorful nicknames, and I think it kind of adds to the lore and the legend of these guys. But you're absolutely correct. Most of them came from that area because they were in close proximity to both the Augusta Country Club and the Augusta National. And more often than not, what usually happened was many of them worked at the Augusta Country Club. And then at some point or another, almost like a farm club in baseball,
Yeah, right. You get moved up.
They got discovered, if you will, or moved up, but really kind of discovered and ended up going to the Augusta National, where it was a little more lucrative for them. Now, these caddies that we highlight, they didn't make as much money as the caddies today. Yeah, you know, for sure. They didn't make,
those percentages is a little.
Yeah, Jim Dent said something really profound. He said the caddies today made what the golfers made back in the day. So these caddies today, some of them are millionaires. Yeah. Some of them are millionaires. So but yeah, they have a special place. Sure. And I'm glad that many of them are still living where we can sit and talk with them and gain a bit of clarity and insight into the lives that they led. So it's pretty interesting.
Okay, so when is the next time our viewers can come and experience Men on the Bag, and when will it stop?
Okay, well, I'll answer the second question first, which is we hopefully it will never stop. Okay. So it'll be ongoing. We do the experience twice a month. The next one is October the 21st at 3 o'clock here at the Laney Museum. And for registration or to get tickets, you can go to www.lucycraftlaneymuseum.com to register through Fair Harbor. And trust me, we've had about 8 experiences thus far. Many of them sold out packed houses, and people always walk away highly satisfied. It's a great experience.
Gotcha. Okay, roger that. Well, my people, my viewers, you hear that. We're going to drop the link and more advertising information below. So make sure you come out here October 21st at 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Check that out. Okay. The next thing I believe that is happening, and this may interest some of our younger viewers or some of our current, hip hop heads, the Harlem Renaissance Conference. What is that about?
So every year, Payne College hosts the Harlem Renaissance Conference, where they bring in scholars and experts from around the country to talk about different topics and themes connected to the Harlem Renaissance. And so this year, they've kind of expanded that sphere to encompass the 50th anniversary of hip hop. I couldn't wait, and when I saw it, I was very excited because, as I often tell people, and I say it jokingly, D, but I'm being very serious. Mm-hmm. Hip hop and I are the same age, so I turned 50 in about a month and a half.
Okay.
And so, I grew up with hip hop, but the funny thing is this. Now, early on, we didn't have the hip hop stations and things like that we have now. So I grew up, probably 70% of the music I listened to was rock and R&B. I couldn't wait to go to Columbia, South Carolina to listen to the big DM 101 and, sometimes WRDW, play, stations like that. But it was really rock and R&B until I really, in the 80s, started getting into hip hop. The funny thing, or the irony about that, is that nowadays I go back and listen to a lot of the rock and R&B because of the sampling. Right. Because I'm trying to find the sample that goes into the hip hop song that I really like. Mm-hmm. So I spend my days now on YouTube looking for samples of EPMD songs or whatever. But that being said, I couldn't wait. And when I heard that Jeffrey Jones, who's the organizer for the Harlem Renaissance Conference, was using Hip Hop 50 and in particular Southern hip hop as one of the topics we could use, we wrote up a treatment for it. Reached out to Dr. Kelly Allen, who's a professor at Augusta University who uses hip hop in her class. I reached out to Travis Wright, who's really known as Godbrother Trav here in Augusta. Brought him into the fold. Just got off the phone with Baruti Tucker at Manitree a couple of days ago. Bring Baruti in on the fold. Got a couple other people that we're trying to kind of round out the panel. And we're going to look at having a panel discussion October 25th at 6 o'clock. Players, poets, and politics, looking at the impact of Southern hip hop on sort of a cultural link and also a global link. And kind of taking it from different perspectives, how it's taught in the classroom, looking at poetry and hip hop, but also looking at some of the major figures and sort of some of the subgenres. I'm hoping that we have an opportunity to talk about trap and talk about some of the other things that have come out of Southern hip hop. I use as the line for my treatment, the South's got something to say, we've got something to say. So I use that from the 95 Source Awards with Outkast, and that was sort of their clarion call to put the East Coast and West Coast on notice that we were coming.
Now, you said that was 95, so that is almost 30 years?
That 20 years. 20 years, yeah. So.
And the South has literally had something to say ever since then.
Oh, most certainly.
You can't have hip hop without the South.
Most certainly. I mean, if you think of, UGK coming out of Houston, if you think of 8 Ball MJG coming out of Memphis, or if you think about all of the Atlanta artists, Master P, No Limit, Cash Money, and I mean even Luke and his and the Miami bass music, all of these had profound impacts on hip hop to the point where you started seeing other artists, like for example, you might see E40 using a Lil Jon beat, for example. So you see other artists from outside of the region tapping into the hip hop sound of the South.
Or Too Short moving to Atlanta.
Exactly. Exactly.
To record and to live.
Yeah.
How great it was.
Too Short.
Going on at the time.
Too Short moved to Atlanta. Eric Sermon moved to Atlanta. Diddy had a restaurant in Atlanta, had a second home in it. So people started recognizing that Atlanta was one of the major epicenters. With T.I. creating a different type of cultural sound, and then Gucci and Jeezy kind of taking it to the next level and everything. So we're gonna have fun.
Okay.
You know, I might even dress up. I'm still working. I'm trying to find my tracksuit, my Kango, and my Dookie rope.
Okay.
So I'm looking for it, and that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
Just to let these people know a little bit. Do you know who the most sampled artist is in hip hop?
Well, I tell you what, and I hope that his name comes up.
Okay.
If it doesn't come up,
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
But I have a sneaky suspicion it's probably the Godfather of Soul,
Amen.
James Brown.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so I used to do this thing, D, where I would listen to like a James Brown CD, and I could pick out each hip hop song that sample. And I'm gonna tell you today, a couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, it just made my day. I couldn't do anything else after I found this out. One of my favorite hip hop songs from my early days in college was an Eric Sermon produced song for a group that he had called Das Effects. And their title song was They Want Effects.
Okay.
That sample Eric Sermon pulled was from the Black Caesar soundtrack that James Brown did.
Okay.
And so that only a blind man can see it is the name of the song from James Brown that they used for that song, that famous guitar lick in the background. And so it blew my mind. But James Brown is the one. Without him, there is no hip hop. Yeah, there's no hip hop.
Without James,
Yes.
the funk is all the same. They find those break beats.
There you go.
Definitely.
There you go.
What else we got? Bloom. What is bloom? You know, if you're from Augusta, we got a lot of flowers and everything like that. But what is bloom?
Well, you know, you're right. Being from Augusta, we do have a lot of flowers. We call it the Garden City, but we also nurture a lot of talent in Augusta. And a young lady named Chandria Evans approached me a couple months ago. She had a film screening of a short film called Bloom that she did over at the Augusta Mini Theater. And it was so many people that came out, they had to turn some folks away. So she wanted to do it again, and I said that you could always use the museum. So on October the 29th at 3 o'clock, it's a Sunday, you know, to kind of quote that great American poet Terrell Owens, we have to get your popcorn ready and everything. So we'll have a popcorn, we'll have candy and soda and water, just everyone come out and enjoy and give this young lady her flowers. Bloom is a coming of age short film, you know, about young African-American girls growing up in Augusta. Chandria is a Davidson grad, so that of course was an easy connection. I'm a Davidson grad. She went to the University of Georgia, product of the Augusta Mini Theater. So I wanted to give her the space to showcase this work. She splits her time between Los Angeles and Augusta, but you know, we're excited to really see her skills on display. Some of the cast members will be here, so we have a chance to do a little Q&A and maybe talk with Chandria about some of her upcoming projects and other things that she might be working on.
Okay. So October 29th, 3 p.m., y'all come check that out. Definitely got to support Augusta, keep our stuff in Augusta, not just in Augusta, but support Augusta.
Definitely.
You go to every movie that come out, you go see all the Marvel movies, you go see all the Tyler Perry movies. Let's start at home. All right.
There you go, on the
Come
real.
out, support Bloom.
On the real.
And then we got a book. You know, a lot of book readers out here, some book clubs. So go ahead and tell us about this book that's coming out.
Yeah, so this one kind of caught me off guard because the author was home earlier this year, and we were making preparations to do a book signing for her in March of 2024 to kick off Women's History Month. Well, I get an email from her and she said, okay, Corey, I'm going to be home for a couple of weeks. Let's do the book signing in November. I was like, okay, well, we'll make it happen. So the author, her name is Nita Wiggins. And for your listeners who's kind of wondering about Nita, you know, Nita's from Augusta. She's a graduate of Westside High School, went to Augusta College when Augusta University was still called Augusta College. You know, worked for the Augusta Chronicle for a while. and sort of made her name in journalism. One story she shared was when she interviewed Muhammad Ali one time, and a lot of that is in her book. Her book is called Civil Rights Baby, and so it's sort of her coming of age, and we're really excited about having Nita here. Now, I mentioned that Nita would be home for a couple weeks. She's not coming from California. She's not coming from New York. Nita lives in Paris, France.
Okay.
So when she says she's coming home and she's coming from all the way in Europe, I definitely wanted to create a space for her to be able to showcase her new book. And so I really want Augusta to turn out, the West Side family to turn out, the Augusta University family to turn out.
You're a West Side alum yourself, correct?
No, I'm Davidson.
Davidson.
Yeah. So yeah, me and Chandria, we
Okay.
on that Davidson thing.
Right, gotcha.
But definitely, I got much love, for a lot of my friends who went to West Side, a lot of my fraternity brothers, including Nita's brother, Ronnie Wiggins, Coach Wiggins at the time. He's now Dr. Wiggins, so he went to West Side, and a lot of my other friends, the Thompson family, and everything. So a lot of them definitely want to turn them out, bring them out to support her when she's here.
For sure, definitely. Now, is the book out? Can we purchase the book, or we have to purchase it here?
Well, I tell you what, we want you to come on out that night, and we want you to purchase on site and everything.
Have you read the book?
I have not read the book. As a matter of fact, I haven't even got an advance copy. Oftentimes that will happen. But we met for about 2 hours with Nita when she was home back in May. And she kind of gave a breakdown of what's in the book, some of the pitfalls and hurdles, but also some of the triumphs, And you have to think about her being, young African-American woman in the South in the 1970s and 80s trying to break into that field. And so that's a little taste of what you'll get with a Civil Rights Baby.
I was going to ask the title Civil Rights Baby. I was wondering, was she a child or a baby during the movement?
Yeah, so
parents involved in the movement?
Yeah, so she was born during that era, but as I often like to say, D, and you know this from your sort of crafting your career in history and your love of history, that even when civil rights we thought that things were changing, as I often like to say, just because the laws were changing in the South, it didn't mean that people's attitudes were changing. And it took much longer for attitudes to change than for the laws. So even though she was born in the 60s, she was still going through some of the trials and tribulations of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s.
Definitely. Well, I can't wait to meet Miss Wiggins and read her book and to see the outpour of love and affection for her when she comes in town. We have, like you just said, in bloom, Augusta is known for its many species of flowers, plants, magnolias, amen corner, all this. But we also have a lot of talent in Augusta that's ready to jump out and bloom, from writers to film producers to actors, everything like that. You can find it here. So, just let people know how and when they can come and support the museum without these events.
Yeah, well, we have tours all the time. We have tours every Tuesday through Saturday at 10:30, 11:30, and 2:30. I'll encourage your listeners and those who follow you to give us a call or go to our website to email your booking. And trust me, it's something, it's well worth your time. We spend a lot of money on frivolous things. We spend a lot of time on frivolous things. But I can tell you that coming here to the Laney Museum, it's a great way to support your community and to support one of the hallmark institutions in the Augusta area. So as I mentioned before, www.lucycraftlaneymuseum.com, or you can call 706-724-3576. And we'll take care of you for sure.
We'll put all the links, the phone number in the description below as well as in the post below. So y'all come out. A lot of y'all claim to be LCL to death, but have y'all actually came to the museum? Y'all just go to the games and wear your t-shirts. You know? So, you know, show some support, man. Come out to the museum, and we'll holler back at you, man.
All right. Thing sound okay?